Hey everybody, Tim Albrecht here, and welcome to this week's episode of the Ask a YFP CFP segment of the Your Financial Pharmacist Podcast, where we feature questions from you, the YFP community, to be answered by one of YFP Planning's fee-only certified financial planners. Before we jump into today's question, I want to give a shout out to YFP Planning's incredible team that makes this segment possible. YFP Planning offers fee-only comprehensive financial planning services that are customized to the pharmacy professional. So whether you want to optimize your investing plan, pay off your student loans, or simply build a solid financial plan, YFP Planning will help get your income working for you rather than the other way around. You can learn more and book a free discovery call by visiting yfpplanning.com. Again, that's yfpplanning.com. Okay, this week's question comes from Blake in Indianapolis, Indiana.
Hi, this is Blake from Indianapolis, Indiana, and I was wondering if you had any tips on how to adjust your budget when you're expecting your first child.
Tim Baker, what are your thoughts?
Yeah, Blake, first off, congratulations to you and your partner. Super exciting to be welcoming them, addition to your family. So, with that said, get ready to open the wallet a little bit more often. There's a study back in 2020 that said that, the average cost to raise a kid to age 17 is about $285,000. So it's an investment of obviously your time, to raise a child, but also, dollars. And, I think there's different stages of this, Tim. When one of the things I remember about, when Shay was pregnant is just like the amount of doctor's visits that, it seemed like we were in the doctor's office like every week. Mm-hmm. And, that often leads to co-pays and things like that. That was something that just like stuck with me. And I'm like, man, we're like advanced, but like bringing a baby into the world healthy it's hard work. Mm-hmm. But I think as you go, beyond like the doctor stuff, it's just kind of like, what kind of delivery are you guys going to have? Is it going to be, natural birth? Is it a C-section? Those have different price tags, unfortunately, associated with that. And then the recovery time related to that. I think the big thing, even before we get into the budget, because I think it kind of, feeds into this, is fully understanding like what your insurance covers, and any copays and deductibles and maximum out of pockets. You want to be crystal clear on that. And a lot of people aren't, and sometimes even HR just doesn't really know. But I think that will kind of help shape your plan, before the birth of your child. Kind of once the baby comes, it's all of the maternity related expenses, and then like diapers and food, baby formula, clothing, other medical expenses, school tuition, college savings, activities as they get older, gifts. It could be vehicle size. That's a big one we see. It's like, I can't really drive around the Civic anymore. Two-door Civic. We got to look at the SUV or the minivan. All the toys, the extra. You could be even like moving, to a bigger home. So those are the things I think more broadly. I think in terms of like, and then if we look at childcare, and I have a stat here, that's going to be one of the more lasting expenses. So if you're fortunate enough to have family members help, it could be anywhere from grandma and grandpa doing it, free of charge, but maybe not. Care in a daycare center for the average cost annually for full-time for an infant is just under $10,000. Care in a home-based daycare, you're looking at about $7,500. If you have a nanny, you're looking at about $38,000 a year. Babysitters could be, just over $30,000. Shay and I, we use an au pair, so we've gone through an agency that's about just under $20,000. So those are real costs that you kind of have a plan for and understand. And typically the prices get better as you go from infant to toddler and so on. But my tips here would be, shock alert here, make a plan, look at your expenses. Obviously what I said before, Tim, is talk to HR, understand your leave. That was a big thing. Unfortunately, the United States is very much behind the times with, leave policies, particularly with maternity and paternity. And there's lots of studies that show that it's best for the mom, the dad, the infant. We're proud at YFP that we offer, a 12-week paid maternity leave policy. We think that's really important. But I think if you don't have that, it's like trying to piece together, okay, if I get 60% disability, can I supplement that with savings between now and the birth? Is there a short-term disability policy that I can tap into? What's FMLA, which is typically not paid, but it holds your job. I would say save deliberately. I've always talked about, sometimes we get lost. And if we have a big pot of money, we say, well, part of it's for this, part of it for that is for that. I would have a baby fund. Each of our kids have a high yield account that we put money into. Now it's more mainly for like activities and things like that.
Mm-hmm.
But it might be right now it's to save for leave, or it's to save for, you might have a car upgrade account, that type of thing. It could just be, something that's very deliberate that you're putting money into. And I would say also, watch out for expenses. Don't overbuy. I kind of still snipe at my wife sometimes, because I remember like we got a Mamaroo, which is one of these things that kind of oscillates and goes up and down. And I feel like our kids might have been in it for a total of 20 minutes, and it's like a $300 product. I'm making numbers up here, but like I'm like, is that really a good? And then it takes up so much room in the basement, after that. And I'm like, can you buy things secondhand? Do you have cousins or siblings that you can borrow from or buy from? Just be mindful of all the stuff that you think that you need. Some of this stuff is it's marketed so well. It's like, oh, we have to have this, but you really don't. So I would say just be cautious of that. Just be mindful of that. And then I think the other thing is even understanding, kind of a little bit more ancillary to the budget, but connected to it is like, if you're moving because of a baby, or you're adding a dependent to your taxes, like your taxes are going to change. So there might be some things that you can do from a tax planning perspective and withholding to get a little bit more, paycheck, because that you're going to get, some deductions and credits with regard to the kiddo. So I think that's kind of the after the fact is like, what are you doing from a tax perspective and FSAs for dependent care and all that stuff that can kind of help out a little bit more with regard to, making the cash flow work. Tim, you should really be answering this question, because you've done it a lot more than I have in terms of bringing some kiddos into the world. What would you say, what did I miss? And what would you say is something that, you would key in on here with regard to the budget?
You nailed it, Tim. The first word that came to mind when I read Blake's question was margin. Like if you can build margin in now, I think you and I would both agree, and so would the other parents out there. Like it's just surprising. I mean, we can hear the stats you quoted, but until you're in the thick of it, like the expenses are real. And I think the margin is, there's going to be upfront healthcare expenses you mentioned. There's going to be, tangible upfront expenses, things like crib and remodeling rooms and clothes and toys and all that. But as they start to get a little bit older, like that margin for, things like experiences. And so like, as you travel, like it's not 1 or 2 plane tickets, it might be 3, 4, 5, 6 plane tickets, and you're renting, cabins or properties, and just, expense across the board goes up. And, one of the things, Tim, that you preach that I love is the importance of supporting a financial plan where you're, yes, taking care of our future selves, but we're living a rich life today. And I think part of that we hear from prospective and current clients that are parents is like, I want to make the most of this time that we have. And often that means experiences and other things that's going to require resources, right? And obviously that is a good use of resources. So I think margin is so important. And I thought you highlighted so well, like another example where tax planning and strategy becomes so important, right? As we think about, bringing a child into this world. But yeah, I think there's some tactical things like healthcare expenses, evaluating your benefits, thinking about saving up in HSAs and other things that can help, weather the storm, tidying up other parts of the plan, building up reserves, separate savings buckets. So much to think about. I thought you highlighted that really well. I would point Blake and others listening to a couple of resources we have on the blog, actually written by a community member, Karen Berger. One is how to prepare financially when expecting, and the second is 5 financial moves to make with a new baby. So those are both on the YFP blog. We'll link to those in the show notes. But again, Blake, congratulations, wishing you the best. And hopefully you've got some, tips and things that you can walk away with as a part of this discussion. So Blake, thanks again for taking time to submit your question. We're going to be sending you a super comfy YFP t-shirt. Sounds like, Tim, we need to send a onesie as well, right? We've got some YFP onesies. So we're going to get one of those as well to you, Blake. And for those that are listening, if you'd like to have your question featured on the show, you can submit it by sending us an email at info@yourfinancialpharmacist.com, or you can record your question by visiting yourfinancialpharmacist.com/ask YFP. As we wrap up this week's Ask a YFP CFP episode, important reminder that the content in this podcast is provided to you for informational and educational purposes only and is not intended to provide and should not be relied on for investment or any other advice. For more information, you can visit yourfinancialpharmacist.com/disclaimer. Thanks again for listening and have a great rest of your week.